One. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of our podcast. Joined, as always, by David Swor. I am DJ Cox. And David, we've had a goal when we started this podcast. One of those goals was to get all of our teammates on the show. Well, it's taken a really long time to get one of them on, and it's probably the best one we ever had. It's Ben Foster. And Ben, thank you so much for coming on tonight, man. It's a pleasure to have you, man.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. So, that's awesome, man. So we're gonna get right into it. Ben, I wore this outfit for you tonight. You grew up in the south suburbs of Minneapolis, there, right in Minnesota. So talk about, first off, before we get into your career a little bit here, talk about your love for the Twins. Kind of who got you watching Twins baseball, where that all started for you.
Well, as a child, they had some success in the 87 World Series and again 91, and I was a kid, and I just remember my mom and I had Homer hankies, and we would just wave them hankies in the living room watching the game. And I don't know, it's just when we go there, my dad was a Sunday school teacher, and he would take his second grade boys class every year to one game, and he always let me tag along no matter what age I was. And so, you know, it was sit way out there in the nosebleed section, a mile away, but it was fun. And I just dreamed from basically the moment I was in a stadium. I just dreamed that I could be there one day, and that was my goal. So that was plan A, no plan B. You know, I was passionate about other sports too, but I just loved baseball and dreamed about it. I dreamed about it year round, and I tried to, you know, train year round, even though there was, you know, 7 feet of snow at times. But so I just grew up watching the Twins, and, you know, we didn't have cable TV, so we didn't, you know, get to watch a lot of different games. But, you know, there was a couple players that I guess I just loved. Frank Viola was a left-handed pitcher. And I don't know, I just wanted to be him. I think I got his autograph at some point. There was a pitcher named Bert Blyleven that was a Christian, actually, and I got to go and see him speak at a seminar, like a Christian. I don't know if it was FCA or what it was, but it was really good. And so, and then Kirby Puckett, I mean, best center fielders probably to play the game. So, and a great, you know, loving personality, great teammate. So it's, you know, 1991 game 6, right? There'll be 7. So anyways, and then Jack Morris's 7th game, you know, 10 innings, that was special. So, I mean, there's several moments, I guess, that where I was a fan, but when I came of age, you know, I quit being a fan, and I just wanted to be, you know, a player. So that's kind of how it happened.
That's awesome, man. So I wanted you to kind of expound a little bit upon the Kirby Puckett. Me and you share the love for Kirby. Kirby grew up in Chicago on the south side in a bad neighborhood, made it out of there, went to Triton College here, also in Chicago. And then obviously when he left here, became the heart and soul of the Minnesota Twins for many years. So it's kind of like we shared him from the Chicago and the Minneapolis standpoint as his career went along there. And man, I don't know. I tell you what, David, you can just stay out of this one.
I'm not saying a word.
But man, like you were saying, game 6, 1991 lives in infamy with me, what he did. it's really sad. Obviously, me and David were talking about this after he got hit by Martinez in the eye, and his career went downhill after that, and then his life kind of went downhill, unfortunately, after that as well. But for the time that he was, going through all that and was the face of the Twins there forever, it seemed like he just defensively and offensively was just something that I know that I looked up to him. I wanted to mount my game after him. So was that kind of the same way with you?
Yes, I mean, that was my position too. And until I got to Temple, and then coach says that we have an All-American center fielder, you're not going to be taking his position. So anyway, I moved positions, but yeah, I loved and tried to be him, man. I think my mom still has this little, it was some like sweater jacket or something. It was like a button up like sweater, or sweatshirt, but it was like a jacket, and it had pinstripes, and it was 34 pucket on the back, and she kept it for the longest time. I'm sure it's in a box somewhere, but anyway,
That's awesome.
he was special.
He really was. And, like for that to 87 and 91 had to be, and the Twins haven't really done much since then, obviously, but for you to be able to go through that as a kid and to get 2 World Series titles when you were young, I think that just changes everything really with fandom as far as that goes. And I unfortunately wasn't able to have that in my life for a long time. So that had to be really cool to have that when you were a young kid growing up, loving those guys. And like you said, that Game 7, Jack Morris versus John Smoltz will go down as in infamy as one of the greatest games ever pitched by 2 guys, and one of the greatest World Series of all time for sure. And you had a front row seat to that, so that's really cool. So David, go ahead, buddy. Your question.
Well, what I was going to say before we go on to the next question, Frank Viola was the man on RBI baseball. Ben, I think if you let it grow out, you could get the mustache going. I think you could do it. So, hey Ben, talk a little bit about your high school career. So, I'm just interested to know what baseball is like in Minnesota. I mean, obviously, maybe the season wasn't quite as long. Were you always a pitcher? Just take us through high school and how that went.
So I played for this town, Farmington. That's where I lived, and we were a population of like 6,000. So we played like small city ball, and we kind of started going. I started in Little League in just like rec ball, and in Farmington, and one of the teams that I played against in 4th grade, he started scouting all the teams, and he decided he was going to build an all-star team, a travel team. And I guess our town didn't have travel ball like at every age group. So he contacted my parents, and basically that was, I guess, the first time I got signed. But basically he recruited me, and he said that, we were going to all go to a tournament. So we went to this tournament. I think we got a trophy, and it was like, it had to have been like 8th or 11th place. I mean, it was probably like 4 inches tall, but it was a trophy. And we ended up going into this big city tournament, and we actually like competed and won a few games. And so anyways, he may have had the trophies made for us. I don't know, because I've never seen an 11th place trophy or 8th place trophy or whatever, but it was, my first trophy in like, in baseball. And he said next year, he's like, I'm going to get some money, and, we're going to try to get uniforms and this and that. Well, the next year in 5th grade, we were undefeated in the small ball or the town ball. And then we went on to, win a few tournaments and stuff. And it was just after that. So that coach coached us all the way through high school. So he coached us like VFW ball, American Legion ball. Like he might've taken one summer off, but basically it was summer ball. And, we would go to these AU national tournaments that we qualified for. We played in a U11, and it was held in Burnsville, Minnesota. And then we went to Millington, Tennessee, and played in the USA Stadium on the western side of Tennessee. I guess it's north of Memphis, but anyways, when I was 15. And so, but the funny thing is we would look at our record. We were like, 25-5, and we were playing teams from, Hawaii and Texas and California that were like 90 and, 2.
Yep.
And it's like, really? So we didn't really have a chance on that stage, but we did win a few games. And as far as my position, I always played center field, and then I always was a starter. So there wasn't pitch counts back then like there is now, but there was innings. And so we had 2 main starters. And so I would pitch 4 innings, and then he'd pitch 3, and then he'd pitch 4, and then I'd pitch 3. And then in tournaments, they would, I think it was something crazy. It was definitely not like what it is now, but it might've been like 10 innings a day or something, or I don't exactly remember, but so I pitched and I played center field. So and then I was a leadoff number 2 hitter. And so, and just like in college, I was a number 2 hitter, and I was a bunter. So I was always a bunter, and I was always a push hitter, a slap hitter, I guess, what they call in softball, but I could hit opposite field. And so, that kind of went from the very beginning. That's what I always was. I don't ever remember batting 3rd or 4th. So it was always 1 or 2, but so.
Awesome. Well, it always amazes me. I actually remember, and DJ, you can probably remember, Coach Hall had a recruiting board, and we'd walk in and look at that board, and most of the time those guys were like Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, and I definitely remember walking in there thinking, Minnesota, what is that? So tell us about how you got to Temple and just the whole recruiting process, who was looking at you, and so forth.
So my senior year, I went on a college tour or whatever, and I went to Maranatha College and Baptist College in Wisconsin. I think it's Wisconsin.
Yep.
And then I went to Pensacola, and they didn't have a baseball program, so that was out. But my parents, wanted me to go. I went to Clearwater. They didn't have scholarships, but I checked it out. And then I came to Tennessee Temple, and something just felt right. Like spiritually, I just felt, and there was nothing here. I mean, it was like the ghetto, but for some reason I just had this peace about it. So anyways, but go back to Minnesota, have my senior year, and I went to this baseball, I guess it was a showcase at the Metrodome, and I don't remember what program it was, but I paid like $400, and then they made a DVD or whatever, and then they sent them to colleges that they thought you were, I guess, capable of playing, or at that level. And there was college scouts there and stuff, or college coaches and stuff, that I guess kind of charted you and whatever. So my senior year, I had this video made, and it was just a little 5-minute video of me pitching and 5-minute video of me hitting. And so I sent that to Coach Hall. I didn't know it was Coach Hall at the time, but I sent it to Tennessee Temple, and they gave me 5 DVDs. So I sent it to a couple different colleges, and then they sent out, some to, some other colleges. So the only contacts I got for baseball were like Division III schools in Minnesota. There was no scholarships involved. So, and they were really expensive schools. So it's kind of I didn't have a lot of options as far as, where I was going to play college. I knew I wanted to go to Christian college. And I kind of wanted to go south so that the season would be longer. Didn't know, what I was getting into. So then Coach Hall reached out to me, and he was like, I want to offer you a scholarship. He's like, it's kind of a crazy story how I found your name and everything. And I just think it's the right thing to do. And so, and I said, all right, well, I said, I'm actually a dual sport, guy. Like, I play soccer too. And he's like, well, I'll have the soccer coach call you. So then little Dell Hamilton called me, and he offered me a scholarship over the phone. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to Tennessee Temple. So
That's awesome, man. It just amazes me how all these guys kind of found their way to Temple. I mean, honestly, everybody's got kind of a funny story. And, you think about Coach Hall having you fall in his lap, man. That's just amazing.
Yeah, coach actually said that our coach Skinny, who was there the year before David got here, he was an assistant coach for us. And when he left, he had passed this folder on to Coach Hall, and it had your name in it. And Coach was going through a bunch of recruits, and he almost 3 years out. And he's like, left-handed pitcher from Minnesota. I'm kind of interested in that one. So he put it aside for a little while, and then he reached out, and the rest is history, man. It's crazy. And so obviously that was one of the greatest decisions, if not the greatest decision as a coach that he ever made, is to get you there. So you get to Temple, and Ben, everything changes for us, man. Like, I'm not kidding you. So we honestly had a lot of studs come through Temple. We really did. Like, we've talked to many guys on this show, and a lot of guys have had outstanding careers and played minor league ball and went on to independent ball, stuff like that. But I speak for myself, and I know David seconds this one, that you're the best player that we ever played with, man. I know we've talked about that before. There's no doubt in my mind. And we've played, like I said, we played with some amazing ball players over the years, and you changed everything, man. You dominate the mound one day, and then you go out there and you play right field the next, and you dominate at the plate. So talk about that first year at Temple, Ben. So how much of an adjustment was the college game for you? I mean, you came in right away and kind of dominated. So just kind of talk about that first year when you got there and how everything went for you.
Well, that was a long time ago.
Yes, it was.
Well, I came from a small Christian high school, and we pretty much dominated, the state's Christian school league, just like most other kids that, go on to play college ball. So I was kind of used to winning. So when that first season started, man, and we were like, I think we lost the first like 11 games in a row and got outscored like 300 to like 2. I mean, I was like, I even asked Coach, and I did this more than one time in my career, but I asked him, why are we playing these teams that are just pounding us? And, it was either for free pizza or, I don't know. I remember going to Tennessee Tech, and I was like, Coach, I don't ever want to come here and play these guys again. Beat us 20-0 And he goes, we get free pizza. He's like, everybody gets the whole pizza. And I'm like, I don't care. It's Little Caesars, man. But I said, anyway, I don't know. It was really difficult the first year, to like, I think we only won like 9 games or something, but, I loved the game, and, just made me want to work harder, get better. And, my first year, I actually broke my hand playing soccer. So, this is kind of a crazy story, but so I was I was, in a cast like for the spring. I didn't play the fall season because I was playing soccer, and then I broke my hand in a soccer game, and I had to have surgery. So, I think several of the Southern boys that we played with were pretty upset that, like, I was a scholarship player and I was screwing around with soccer, and they called me grass fairy, I think, if I remember. And they were like, there ain't no way that a boy from Minnesota can play baseball and that he's worth a scholarship. And then he's a soccer player too, and blah, blah, blah. So anyways, I remember we were getting beat a bunch to nothing somewhere down in Alabama or Georgia. We were on this long road trip, and, it was our first, I don't know, it was in January, I think, and I got put in as a pinch runner for, Howard, because he got a double, and then somebody else got a base hit, and I was rounding third and I fell.
I remember that.
You guys
I
remember
actually
that?
remember that. Oh yeah.
And that was our first run of the season, and they tagged me out, and I tripped, and I'm sure everybody was like, this is stupid. Like, who is this guy? He tripped and fell on his way home. Anyways, like, that'll forever be in my mind. Like, I wonder what was going through Howard's mind, when that happened. Like, I know he didn't say what he wanted to say to me, but he might have said it to everyone else. Anyways, but I think we ended up scoring later that game. So, and then eventually we got a win, but I don't know. I just remember, just seeing the size of players, and like those teams that we faced that just had big, like, future probably minor leaguers and independent ball players. And so I knew there was another level, that I could reach. And my freshman year or my senior year of high school, I got clocked at that workout in the Metrodome at 80 miles an hour. So that was as hard, and I was just throwing it as hard as I could. And so my freshman year, happened, and I think I got to win. We won a couple games, pitching and stuff, that first year. But I remember going to the Dominican Republic on a mission trip, and this scout came up to me and was like, "Did you know you just threw 88 miles an hour?" And I was like, "What?" He's like, "I got you throwing 87, 88 miles an hour." And I was like, "Really?" I'm like, "I throw 80. And so, that first year I gained 20 pounds in college, and I probably gained a bunch from the cafeteria. But I mean, I know I put on some muscle, and I kind of grew. I started getting whiskers. I didn't have whiskers when I came to college. So, like, started, I guess, becoming a man. So, and anyway.
When I think Ben Foster, I think of two things. I think of a few good men. You singing that song for Societies or whatever our senior year, but I also think about the gruesome ankle injury, and I think that's something that we'll never forget. So talk about that, man. Talk about just what you had to go through after that. Just take us through that whole process.
We were in Georgia, and it was an away game. Do you remember where we were at?
I actually was sitting here trying to think of that.
I thought we were at Ingle. We weren't at Ingle?
No, we were definitely in Georgia. Was it, give me a second, I'm gonna remember. Was it Barry?
No.
West Georgia?
It was no, it was pretty sure it was a team we would have played like in like the end of the season. Like, it might have been like
Faulkner
maybe. I can't remember. Jason Morgan's mom was there because she ended up staying at the hospital with me. So it was pretty close, I think, to where maybe he lived. Not exactly sure about that. I just know that his mom was there, and she basically, stayed with me at the hospital until the team was able to come. And then I think she drove me back to the school the next day, because I ended up having to spend the night there. But I just remember, and I still do it. I still lunge at first base. Now I do it with that in my mind. And so, but I've always wanted to beat out, that infield hit. It's huge points on a batting average, because no one's ever going to know that it was, infield hit. It was a base hit. It was a single. It was so, but I just, I don't know. I always felt like, it was just worth that lunge, that extra step. So, but I remember hitting it, and I remember when I saw the fountain squirting all over the place. I remember I said my career's over. I literally said my career's over. And that's when I started crying. It was because my career was over. Like it literally broke my heart. Like I don't even remember it hurting. Like I felt like my career was over, and that's just what I kept saying. And so it was a 45-minute ambulance ride, at least. I think that's what they told me it was. And they couldn't give me any medicine because they couldn't reach the hospital, the doctor, in order to give them permission. And so they gave me the medicine in the parking lot of the hospital. So I rode the 45 minutes, 100% pain. And I kept looking at my foot, and it was sideways. And I'm pretty sure that Mrs. Morgan rode in the ambulance with me. And but I just remember, and if she didn't, she was there as soon as I got there. But I just remember looking at my foot, and that's all I could think about. And that night in the hospital, that's pretty much what I kept thinking about. And the doctor came in, and he told me, he said, you're not going to play again. You're probably not going to run. You may walk. You'll probably have a limp. So, when it happened, there was a hole in my sock. So my leg had punched a hole in my sock. And so, but when the surgery, when I came out of surgery, the specialist said that it went as well as it could have ever gone. He said that all the ligaments that my leg bone attaches my foot, that keeps my foot attached, they all tore at the foot bone. So none of the ligaments even stretched. So they were able to staple the ligaments back to my foot. They said my ankle didn't even break. It just dislocated and then went back. And so, I call it a compound fracture because my bone came through my sock, but nothing actually broke. And the ligaments tore on the foot bone. And so the next morning, the specialist came in and he said the procedure went better than I could have ever imagined. He said it was like a miracle. And he said, I expect 100% recovery. In fact, if you've ever sprained your other ankle, he said, it's probably weaker than this one will be. And 10 months later, or whatever it was, when we started that next spring season, I was out there, and I think I pitched a complete game, at the start of my junior year. So, because that was my sophomore year. So.
Yeah, man, I remember that like it was yesterday. To be honest with you, I don't obviously remember where it was, but I remember telling you a few times before you did that. I'm like, Ben, I said, you are going to hurt yourself when you do that. And I was like, I love you, man. And I know exactly what you're doing. It's a hustle play, and I get it. But every time you did that, man, I was like, oh my gosh, it scared the crap out of me. So like when that happened to you, man, I remember that you were on the ground and you were saying your career's over. And I'm like, man, your career is not over by any means. You'll get through this. I think you were in shock. That was one of the most nasty things I've ever seen to this day. Like seeing that was like, oh my goodness. So you overcome that and you come out your junior year and you dominate yet again after, thinking that you may not play again. So um, we'll get to your later years here in a little bit, but I want to talk to you first. We talked about this a little bit on air, off air, I should say. But talk about some of your teammates that you played with, any of the players that you love to play with, etc. from the teams that you played with the 4 years at Temple.
Well, you're gonna make me pick.
No, I'm just saying, like in general, just talk about some of your teammates that you love playing with.
All of them. I don't want to get in any trouble.
There you go. That's a good answer. I like it.
Hey, well, we had the privilege, in my opinion, to play in one of the greatest stadiums that we were able to play in. And it kind of went downhill. But talk about Ingle Stadium, man. What was that like when you first got here?
It was it's like a bucket list thing. I mean, like I made a list of stadiums I wanted to play my career in. And I mean, it turns out that what I found out when I ended up playing independent ball, I played in one of the oldest stadiums in the US, but somebody gave me a list and they said, Ingle Stadium was on that list. And I was like, I played in two of the oldest, like, original stadiums in America. And like the other two were Fenway and Wrigley Field, I think. And so I was just like, I want to, like, that's my list. Like, I want to play in those places. And so, like it was a dream, man. I mean, I loved it. And I remember as a freshman going to Ingle Stadium, and I just couldn't believe that was our home field. And I didn't care that we had to pull weeds and work. I mean, it was just awesome. Like, I loved working on the field, and yeah, it was awesome. As far as the players, we had a really good group that came in with me. So, I know Ryan Hill was a phenomenal player. He ended up having an injury similar to mine that, ended his career. So in a practice, I mean, we were just having a practice and he was a hustle play. Were you guys still there when that happened?
I don't remember that.
That was we were gone.
Yeah, he was he hit a ball and he was super competitive too, just like all of us. But he like rounded second, and the ball came in quicker than he thought, so he turned around and went back to first, and he slid into first, like foot first, and his whole leg over his knee, or his whole body went, like his knee bent the wrong way. Ended up putting him in, I think we put him in the bed of a truck. It might have been Coach Hall's truck, and drove him to like Memorial Hospital, like from Avondale. And he was just like, in excruciating pain, but he ended up, it ended up ending his career. It might've been our junior year. It was really sad though.
Yeah.
But God used that to, redirect his, I guess his passion and his focus on some other things. But he was a very good ball player. So that kind of reminded me when we were talking about my injury, and his, and so.
All right. So you got any other funny stories from the time we were playing baseball or anything Temple wise that you want to talk about that were some of the memories that stick with you to this day?
Lost ball in high weeds, man. Water under the bridge. I mean,
Hey.
how do you get away from that, right?
I got one about you, Ben. We've talked about this here on air, but I don't remember where we were in Florida. We'd had a rough couple of days. We'd been riding around in the Rainbow TTU van for years. We decided it was ending that night. And so do you remember all that, Ben?
I don't remember that, David.
It wasn't. Oh yeah, it wasn't you. No, I'm just kidding.
That never happened.
Well, Ben, I remember it like it was yesterday because Ben actually was the guy who had the guts to make it happen. We all kind of like talked about it, and Ben was like, "No, it's coming off." And I remember we went and bought that blue spray paint to spray over it or whatever. But what I remember was the next day, Coach walking out to that van, and we were all like, "Oh my gosh, big gray spot right in the middle of the van." He never even noticed it. Opened that van and just took off. But that's my favorite Ben Foster funny story, I think.
That was a good one, but I think honestly that same trip, I think what saved us was that he lost the keys to the van.
Yes, he did.
And they were in the door of the van.
Oh my gosh.
He was so stressed and looking for those keys. He never noticed this big splotch on the side of the van.
We had a rough week that week. Like I said, I remember, I don't think the road trip went real well from the playing standpoint either. But anyway, we talked about that last episode, I think, with Robert about those keys being stuck in the door.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun. There was very few dull moments on road trips, man. I remember some of the, I guess it was a thing to like race the vans on the way back or whatever. And so when some of the upperclassmen were driving, you just never knew what was going to happen. So,
yeah.
there's a turn on 24 coming into Chattanooga from like Nashville area, and it's basically a shortcut, but it's really it's an on-ramp to 27 North. And I don't know if you guys remember or familiar with that, but basically you can take it and then just get right back on 24. And so you cuts like a quarter mile like out of your trip, So I remember that, Coach was obviously going to take the road that you're supposed to take. And so some of the other upperclassmen would take that, and like end up beating him home, because they would use that inappropriately. But anyways, I mean, I loved the road trips, man. I loved going places, man. I loved getting Three Musketeer bars from the, in our, like, I ate so many Three Musketeer bars.
Doggy sandwich and a Three Musketeers. That's exactly right.
That's right.
So Ben,
CC's, man, CC's probably 150 times probably in 4 years of college.
There was that once a year trip to the varsity to eat a greasy hamburger, right?
Yep, that's right.
So Ben, you're getting ready to turn 40. I've got to know, you still got it? No? Of all the people, I thought you would still have it.
What's your fastball clocking at right now?
Probably. So actually, I played some ball. I went to the Super Worlds for slow pitch softball this last fall in October. And I wasn't even playing. I was playing church ball. And I mean, we have a decent church team, but it is what it is, you know. And I was playing left center or center. And I pitched some just because I enjoy it, and I drop back and play, you know, middle infield. So sometimes our pitcher's not available, and then I would pitch, but like I still love playing outfield. And so there was this one inning in church ball where I dove head first and caught a ball. I robbed a home run. And then I made a sliding catch for all 3 outs in 1 inning. And I just was like, I still got it. And then the next day, man, I was like every muscle fiber in my rib cage was like sore. Like I felt like I'd gotten run over by a truck. And my shoulder was sore from diving. I guess, I don't know if I did something to my glove shoulder, but anyways, but then I got picked up to play in this Super World, and we went down there and we won. We ended up getting 5th out of 76 teams.
Wow.
And it was a lot of fun, and I played a lot, and I ran a lot, and I played right field instead. I told him that, I said, you got a young kid that's 21 years old. He could run all day. And I said, if I play center field Friday and Saturday and Sunday, I was like, you won't have me Sunday. I'm going to be out of commission. So, anyway, so it kind of gave me that itch to like start working out and like keep playing. But seriously, like I run into a fence or like dive one time and I'm like, I hurt for a week. And so but I actually talked to a guy who's probably 5 or 6 years older than me. And he told me, he said, you're right at that age where you're going to blow something out. Like, cause you still think you got it. You still feel pretty good. And, but you're just one, you know, switch in a direction and there goes your ACL.
That's DJ about playing basketball, man.
Nope. I'm good. I'm good.
You blew them both out, right?
Both Achilles, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So like, I can't afford that to happen because my job, I'm a construction worker. So, you know, I have to be able to go to work every, on Monday. So, I still think I got it, but I know that skills are coming off, man. It's about time for retreads or something. So
2003, Ben, you become an All-American, honorable mention. 2004, you're an All-American. You have 2 outstanding seasons to end your college career, your junior and senior year. We didn't get to see your senior year. We were gone by then, but your junior year, we were right there with you, man. That team was getting better, and I think you guys had a really good season in 2004. Where I know on the mound, you had an 8-5 pitching record your senior year, which is outstanding for Temple, no doubt. So you get through your last 2 years at Temple. What are you starting to hear about from some scouts? What was going on in the options for pro ball, especially probably your senior year?
So my understanding was that I was found by a scout at a Berry game. So we were at Berry my junior year, and I was picked against a guy that was going to be drafted. I actually played against him in independent ball, which was kind of neat because we made the all-star team. We got to sit down. We actually were scheduled to sign autographs on like the fan day at the same time. And so we actually shared our stories. And the whole reason that I got found was because of him. So the scouts were all there at the Barry game, and he ended up throwing a perfect game, no hitter, perfect game. And I ended up giving up a leadoff double to the leadoff hitter and a single to the number 3 hitter. And then after that, I threw a no hitter, perfect game after that. So it was we both threw pretty much a flawless game. And the hit was a broken bat. It would have been a broken bat, blooper over first baseman's head. And the reason I remember it was because I actually went to church I still go to church with this guy, but the guy that got the hit, we played softball a lot of years together. He was really competitive, really good baseball player at Berry College. But anyways, he's like, that's my claim to fame. I got a hit, like I broke up, whatever, and we won the game. And I had your number. Like he's got that for me, like he holds it over my head. So, but anyways, that's how they found me. So, and then that was kind of towards the end of my junior year. And then the next, we were starting to do workouts at Ingle Stadium in January, and these scouts, man, started showing up at every practice. And, they would just ask to see bullpen sessions. And it seemed like they were at every game. And I remember Coach Hall would tell me, he said, I told them that you're a hitter and you're an outfielder, and he said the scouts would show up for a game, and if you weren't pitching, then they would leave. And he would say, well, he's playing a position, and he's got the best batting average on the team this year, and whatever. But they weren't interested. So they told him that, I guess, if I can throw 90 miles an hour and I'm left-handed, then I'm going to be a pitcher. So that's basically, I guess, how it started happening. And I remember this. I remember in one time they announced in chapel at Temple, and they were like, everybody needs to come out and watch Temple baseball. We have a guy that's getting scouted, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I remember thinking, don't come out and watch this play. If you've never come and watched this play, then, if you're not supporting us for just our team and who we are, then don't come out. I remember thinking, like, I don't want them to come out and just to see scouts, like, whatever. So
they might have thought they were coming out to see Jeff Nevin or something. That might have been what all the Temple people were thinking. Well, Ben, take us through like the whole draft process, man. I was working a job at that point, and I remember having the computer up back then. You had to wait for it to see. And I don't know if I ever told you this, but there was a Mets scout that I knew real well, went to our church some. And anyway, I guess they were really interested there at one point. And matter of fact, he called me and told me, hey, we're going to take your boy. And it didn't happen. I was like, what the heck? But anyway, just take us through that whole process that day. I had to have been a dream come true.
So I'm pretty sure that you knew before I did, and DJ knew before I did, because I was working a construction job and I wasn't allowed to have my cell phone on me.
Oh my gosh.
So I actually stayed home for day one of the draft because I thought it was going to happen. And so, but then when day two happened, I went to work because I was like, this ain't going to happen. So I went to work, and like I went to my glove box in my car to check my cell phone, and I had like 7 missed calls. And so I answered the first one, and it was something like, this is so-and-so from the Texas Rangers, or congratulations, you've been drafted by Texas Rangers, this number pick in the 25th round. we're going to be calling you shortly and giving you like flight information and everything. And I'm just like, what? And I had another missed call from someone else from the Texas Rangers that says, you know, we'd like to verify this number and, you know, give you some more information on, you know, and I was just like, whoa, you know. And then I had a missed call. I don't remember if it was from you, Dave, or if it was from DJ, but somebody called me and congratulated me. And then my dad had heard it. He was listening to it on the computer at work. And so everyone knew before I did.
Well, I got to know then. Did you turn around, walk back in the job, and tell that foreman, "Hey, today's my last day"? How'd that go?
I did. So I hadn't talked a whole lot about it because the year before I went on a mission trip to the Dominican Republic, and I threw the hardest I'd ever thrown in the Dominican Republic. And I think it was hot, whatever. Maybe their guns were juiced up a little bit because they love the fastball and they can't hit anything but a fastball in the Dominican Republic. But they clocked me at 92, and I'd never thrown 92 anywhere. Like I pretty much only threw 90. And so the guy clocked me at 92. Well, he told Doug Hodges, who is the missionary I was there with, and he, you know, was a professor at Temple. But he told him, he said, you know, I'm a scout for the Chicago Cubs, like the Latin team. But he said, we're gonna draft this kid. Like, we're gonna sign this kid. And so, I mean, there was a point, like they were literally talking about me leaving the mission trip. And this was like my senior project, you know, for my mission major. They were gonna fly me from Dominican straight to Mesa, Arizona, and start playing rookie. And so I told him, I said, I'll just, you know, you buy out my senior year of college. Like I want $25,000. That's all I want. 25,000, I'll sign. And so literally, I mean, I had packed my bags. I mean, Gus Hernandez was there, and he like prayed with me and stuff, and like, you know, that God would bless my career. And, you know, like I was literally, my bags were packed and I was waiting for a plane ticket to leave the Dominican and go to Mesa, Arizona. And so like, because the scout I guess, I don't know. It all seemed like it was going to work out. And then it didn't work out. He like called Doug and he was like, we changed our mind. They're just going to let this kid go back, do his senior year. They're going to follow him during his senior year. And, you know, maybe we'll look at him in the draft next year. And so like, it just happened like that. And I was just like, so after going through that, I was just like, you know what, it may happen, it may not, but I don't think it's going to happen, especially after day one. And I was like sitting around waiting for it to happen. And then it didn't happen. And so, but I remember I got a call after the first night of the draft by, I think it was somebody, and they said, you know, we're considering taking you, you know, before the 30th round. So I just remember thinking, all right, you know, maybe it'll happen. Well, it ended up happening in the 25th round. So,
Pretty awesome. Hey, for the record, the Cubs still don't know good talent when they see it.
Moving on from that very fastly. So Ben, you get drafted and you go to Mesa, I believe, out to Arizona. You get sent there. By the way, man, I was completely when you got drafted, I was sitting there up in my dad's loft. It was the old school way where you had to listen to every pick come by on the computer. It was so brutal compared to what it is now. But I was excited for you, man. You got to live everyone's dream that you played with, that we all wanted to be a part of, no doubt. Congratulations on that, man. So Texas sends you to rookie league in Arizona. You pitch 43 1/3 innings that summer after a full college season. Okay, so you go another 43 innings in rookie ball. UK 44 and 43 innings, man. So you're over 1K per inning. You're 22 years old and you're on your own out in Arizona. Talk about that experience.
So I was very poor. So, I got a signing bonus of $1,000. Can you believe that? So my roommate at spring training, he signed as a 17-year-old kid. He was 6'7", 6'8", and like 140 pounds soaking wet. And he signed for like $400,000 or something out of high school. And so I remember going to the bank when we got our check, and he got half of his. So, but it was like $200,000. I think he signed for 465 in the third round as a high schooler, but he could throw like 97 miles an hour. But that's all he had was a fastball. So, and he was any kid that's 17 and has a $500,000 or $1 million, they're going to be cocky. But anyways, he was a good kid, but he was just always on the phone talking to, his agent or talking to financial advisor or something, or buying something. And my $1,000 bonus went to 4 college payments, like loan payments. My loan payment was $250, and I wanted to pay it off as quick as I could. So I made 4 loan payments with my bonus. Can you believe that?
Wow.
Oh, I mean, that's not a cool story, but like that was reality. So, and a rookie made $850 a month, and you trained like 12 to 14 hours a day. So, figure that out, 7 days a week. We had to buy our own place. So I rented a 1-bedroom condo with 7 guys.
Oh my gosh.
We could afford it. So it was I think it was $1,100 a month plus utilities. And so we only had $850 a month. And so every 2 weeks we'd get like a $300 check after taxes. They paid us every 2 weeks. So, I mean, there was this 99-cent like grocery store in Arizona, and I would walk there because I didn't have a car. And they would just pick up with a 15-passenger van every morning for practice. And then we would start practice at 5 a.m. and then we would play our game at around 10 or 10:30. And then we were done because it was so hot in Arizona. It's like in the summertime, it was like 115 degrees. So, no money. But all we did was trained, and then they would provide food for us at the facility. So we had, it was the spring training facility in Surprise, Arizona. So, it was fun. It wasn't like, independent ball was like a better atmosphere because there was like people in the stands. So in the rookie leagues, nobody's in the stands except maybe some traveling, parents and grandparents. But like otherwise, it's pretty much you're just in an empty stadium playing a game every day. And it was also all about pitch count. Like, they would say you're gonna throw 45 pitches. So like, you wouldn't always. Sometimes they let you finish the inning, but if you met your limit, then you were done. It didn't matter how good you were doing, or so. That's a little, I guess it's hard to go by the stats, but because you might pitch 2 innings and then they just take you out, or you might pitch 4 or 5. So
after that season, then you go to independent ball in the Frontier League. What happened with the switch over from the MLB to the Frontier League? How did that all work?
So, this is my time to brag, I guess, or like shine some light on it. But, I didn't expect to be cut in spring training. And I don't really know why to this day why it happened, because I just remember Buck Showalter was manager of the Texas Rangers at the time. And he showed up for the game that I pitched, and he was sitting behind home plate in a golf cart. And I'd gotten pulled up from low rookie or low single A to high single A for this game. So I thought he was there to see me. And so turns out they called me up because I was playing with a bunch of younger guys and they wanted to see me play against guys my age. And so, and it was my last hoorah or whatever. But I threw 2 innings. I had 5 strikeouts and an infield fly. I mean, so I thought when they called me in, I thought that they were going to like move me up to Double-A or something. Or like let me play in the spring training game. Like I literally like thought that I had the best day ever. And so the next morning, there's a guy standing up against the wall with a clipboard and he's like, you know, saying hello to everybody. And I just said, good morning. It's going to be a good day. And he said, not today. Go upstairs. And that was it. And I was like, well, I got to go to my locker. And he goes, you don't have a locker. He's like, everything that was in your locker is in a bag and it's upstairs. And I was like, what? You know, I mean, it was just like, that was it. So I go up and like, there's this hallway and, or there was a waiting room and we went in there. I started looking around. There's all these guys in there. And I was just like, what's going on? And they said, we just don't see a future. They said we're kind of going a different direction, you know, and Oral Hershiser just gotten hired, which, I mean, he was great, but he just got hired and they said they're going a different direction. I ended up finding that out from a scout. The scout that drafted me, I called him and I was like, you know, hey, my career's over with you guys. What happened? Why'd you draft me if you're going to get rid of me in a short season? And he's like, well, you know, they kind of turned everybody over and Oral Hershiser's are going a different direction. And he's looking for taller guys that just a lot of hard throwers. And like, you're just one of those guys. And so I started looking around in the room and I was like, everybody's little and lefty. I mean, there was like 7 lefties in there and we all threw mid-80s and, you know, really depended on our 2-seam and our movement and our control. So, but anyway, so I just was like, I called my mom and I'm like, hey mom, you know, I'm coming home. And she's like, whatever. And I was like, I'm serious. Like, you need to be at the airport in 3 hours because I'm going to be there in Minneapolis and I need you to pick me up. She's like, are you kidding me? She's like, what happened? And I was like, I got cut. So anyways, I'm sitting in the airport waiting for my flight in Arizona. And my phone just starts ringing. And that's how I ended up in independent ball. Like I had a team from Canada call me. I had a team from Evansville call me. And I had a team from, I think, Windy City, Chicago. There was 4 or 5 different teams that called me and they said, we just got a release list of all the released players. And we're just going through and we'd love to see you, you know, come to our tryout. And I ended up picking Evansville.
That's awesome, man. So Evansville Otters, 2005 and 2006, you with them. You go 10-6 with a 2.99 ERA in 2005. So you had an awesome 2 years there for Evansville. 2007, you didn't play. And then you go in 2008 from Evansville and you play for a couple games with Windy City Thunderbolts to kind of end your career there. So talk just for a couple minutes then about those years there with Evansville and then how it all came to an end in 2008.
So my tryout, so I joined with Evansville, and I mean, one of the managers that contacted me, he like baited me to play for them because they know how, I mean, it bars in town. And so, I mean, really something I was looking for. So like, but the guy from Evansville, he called me and he just was really professional, really seemed really interested in me as a person, player. Talked about the history and talked about Bossy Field and how there was this, wow factor, playing in that stadium. So just a couple of things that really, grabbed my attention. So I show up at a 14-day tryout, and they basically invite 48 players, and then they keep 24. So you're not really guaranteed a spot, and the salary there is like $600 a month, like as a rookie. So, it's pretty tough. And then you live with a host family. So like I was all in. So I show up at Evansville day one, and I get on the mound, and I had filled out like a resume, and I put on there that I could throw 80 miles an hour. So I start warming up, and I'm about to see live hitters, and this pitching coach calls timeout and walks out to me, and he goes, is something wrong? And I was like, no. And he goes, do you feel good? And I was like, yeah, I feel good. And he's like, all right, let's go. So I ended up facing a few hitters, and he's like, all right, you're good. Come here. And so I'm sitting there. The manager and him are sitting behind home plate, like right behind the circle, behind like a pitching screen. And they're like radar gunning, and like writing stuff down. And so I get right behind the screen, and I'm like talking to them, and they're like, do you know how hard you're throwing? And I was like, I don't know. 84, 85 maybe. And they're like, well, you said down your throw 80 miles an hour. And he's like, you threw 88 today. And he goes, why'd you say you could throw 80 miles an hour? And I said, because I knew I could throw 80 miles an hour. He said, no one's ever thrown harder than they put on their resume. Like, you're the first. And they're like, you know what that tells us? That you're honest. And he's like, we want you on he's like, you're going to be our ace starter game day one. And we expect a lot out of you, but just letting you know, no one else at this tryout is guaranteed a spot except you. And they're like, thanks for your honesty. And that was it. So, I ended up making the all-star team, and we had a really good team. We basically were a game away from, making the playoffs. It was a fun year. A lot of really good ball players. And then 2006, I started back, and I loved playing in front. In Boise State, our home crowd was like top notch. They would chant your name, and they would boo you off the field if you had a bad game. I mean, they were awesome, and they had sellout crowds, standing room only, like 7,000 people. I mean, there's some electrifying moments. In 2006, I was engaged when I went back to play, and it was just kind of a hard time, and I was financially strapped, and like there was just some decisions that had to be made, and so I ended up walking away from the game. And my manager called me in, and his name was Greg Jelks. He was a big leaguer. I think he played for Cincinnati. He's actually passed since then, but he was a cutthroat guy, like, and he was a ball player's manager. But he called me in, and he was like, why are you walking away? And I was like, there's things I got to take care of at home. And I said, there's a woman I love, and I'm gonna spend the rest of my life with her. And if I don't, go home and prove that to her, that, this career is only gonna, be there for me for a few more years at the most. And I said, I expect to spend the rest of my life with this woman, and I just think it's the right decision. And he goes, all right, well, I hope she's worth it. And so he says, but when you walk away from this game, you're not going to come back. He's like, he's like, very few guys ever get a chance to come back, because he says, when you come back, you got to prove that you can still play. And he's like, things got to work out. And so anyways, he ended up, he supported me. And then in 2008, I tried to, have a comeback, and I felt really good. And I kind of got an honorary spot on the team, I think, like because of my previous history with them and my stats and stuff. They gave me a shot. And then I asked to be traded to St. Paul because I wanted to play in front of my parents for a little while because I knew I was feeling like it was coming to the end, and there was no more scouts calling me and no more talk. And I was getting spot starts, and I was getting put in the bullpen a lot. So I could kind of see the end coming. I had a baby. I was married and I had a baby at home. And so I just decided to call it quits after that. And then when they traded me to Windy City, I was like 8 hours from home, and I had a baby. And, in Evansville, I was like 4 hours away. So like I could make a trip if I had to. So, and then in 2008, everything was crazy. Gas was crazy expensive. So, and then I went from rotting in the bullpen, never getting used in Evansville to, left-hand specialist, only left-hander on the team, in the bullpen. And I was used like every night. I was there for 4 or 5 games, maybe. So I told them I needed a night off, and they wouldn't give it to me. So that's how it ended. Was I asked for a release or a retirement. So because they said, if you're going to play here, you're going to be available every night. And I was like, well, I can't pitch every night. I've never pitched every night. And the guy's like, you can either pitch every night or be available every night, or you can be released or be retired. And I was like, I'll be retired. So it kind of ended bitterly and short, but anyway.
Well, man, you had an awesome career, and Coach Hall quotes as saying, well, Ben Foster, he was a very gifted player for TTU. We almost didn't have him at TTU. I was cleaning out files that Jim Hall left on the recruits, and I tossed his aside, and I came across his with a left-handed pitcher from Minnesota. I said it'd be nice to have a lefty on the team, so I called his coach, and the rest is history. Providential. He was the complete package and a great guy to coach. Still is an awesome man. Got a great family as well. It was a privilege to coach. So that's from Coach Hall. Ben, and I echo the sentiments of getting to see you play at Evansville when you came here to Windy City to play the Thunderbolts. You stayed with me at night. It was a lot of fun, and I got to watch you play the next day. I still have a mark on my head from headbutting some guy to get one of your foul balls, which is kind of funny story. I got that bad boy though too. Nicole still makes fun of me for that one all the time, but that ball's up on top of my my shelf there. And man, thanks for spending some time with us tonight. It's been a privilege, man. It was a lot of fun going over your career, man. What an awesome career you had, and like Dave and I said before, man, you were the best we ever played with, and it was a privilege to be your teammate for all those years. And God bless you, man. And I know you got a great family and everything too. So thanks for joining us, Ben.
Appreciate you having me.
You got it, David. All right, buddy. Well, we'll sign off for now. David will be back soon. I think we do actually, Ben. We have Ryan Hill coming on the show next week. He's one of the guys we haven't been able to get to, so we'll be talking to Ryan next week. So tune in for that one, and everybody like our page on YouTube, and thanks for tuning in.